A man known for many things. What are those things? Lies? Yes. A truck driver, a professor, growing up in the black church, growing up in the Puerto Rican church. Joe Biden is a man of many talents. Joe Biden could write a book about himself and he wouldn't be able to finish it because he would just continue to make up stories over and over again until he ran out of stories in his head. Now, here's a news story from his brand new interview with MSNBC about being a factory worker.
A lot of criticism, understandably. We've invested more in red states than blue states.
Oh, okay. Because you're.
That's in this book. That's in this report.
Well, for two reasons.
That's in this book right here.
One, red states really screwed up because of the way they handle their economy and the way they handle manufacturing, the way they handle access to supply chains. You know, I remember being out in Iowa.
Oh, here we go.
And and I remember one of the big issues was that there was a small plant with 300 people, been around for 70 years.
Yeah, I bet you
My
did.
grandfather worked there. I worked there. My son works there. And they had the best education system at the time and rated the best state education system in the country. And all of a sudden, the kid comes home after he graduates and said, Mom, I got to leave. There's no job for me here. The factory shut down. Well, guess what? How do you run a country that way? How do you do that? So, for example,
guess what? The kid comes home and we're all confused because I just made this story and even I'm confused while I'm saying this story out loud. This story is opening up. It's like a bottle of wine. The longer I say that I committed to saying I worked in a factory, it's like a nice wine. It just starts to grow legs. It starts to have more character per se. But I went on to, let's not just go to Google and fact check him. I went to X. Let's see what AI would say. Did Joe Biden ever work in a Iowa factory? No, there's no record of Joe Biden working in a factory in Iowa. Joe Biden's career was primarily been in politics and law. And then I said, well, did Joe Biden ever work in a factory with his sons? No, there are no records or credible records indicating that Joe Biden ever worked in a factory with his sons. Joe Biden's professional experience has been centered around law and politics, not factory work. His sons, Hunter and Boo, also pursued careers in laws and public service, but there's no evidence that they worked together in a factory setting. And then I said, does Joe Biden ever lie? I mean, Joe Biden, there's no way. Joe Biden, like many politicians, has been accused of making misleading statements or outright falsehoods at various points in his political career. Here are a few points to consider. Fact-checking him, mismanagement is about his personal anecdotes or family history, exaggerations or inaccuracies. I think this would fit into all of these. In conclusion, Joe Biden has made statements that have been proven false or misleading. The extent and intention behind these statements can be subject to interpretation and debate. Well, when Joe Biden says, I worked in a factory with my father and my sons, and then one of my sons came home and said the factory's gone, that's a made-up story. You just got fact-checked. I want to hear it again. I love listening to a liar. I love listening to a liar just try to lie before you. And everybody like you and me, when somebody is lying in front of your face, you can just feel it. The energy feels off. The emotions feel off. The story isn't really connecting. It seems out of nowhere. And you're like, I didn't know that about you. You worked in a factory. And you're like, yeah, I totally did. Back in 1920. You're like, okay, were you alive?
I remember being out in Iowa.
Yeah.
And
that's when you know a politician's lying. I remember a time. No, you don't. You're making it up right now.
And I remember one of the big issues was that there was a small plant with 300 people, been around for 70 years.
The plant was so tiny. It was a tiny plant. It was so tiny. So tiny you can't even find it on a map because it's not real.
My grandfather worked there. I worked there. My son works there. And then
my great-grandfather works there. And I just became a great-great-great-grandfather as well. And there, I'm going to put them children to work. Because we're Democrats and we love being commies.
And they had the best education system at the time and rated the best state education system in the country. And all of a sudden, the kid comes home after he graduates. Mom, I got to leave. There's no job for me here.
Yeah, all of a sudden, the kid comes home. What's the kid's name, Joe? What's your son's name? What's your son's name? Which one of your sons? The kid comes home. Sounds like a great father figure to me. Congrats, Democrats. Your believability is going down. I believe old Joe came from Scranton, Pennsylvania, says Kristen. Yeah, exactly. But let's fact check Gronk. And I found these old pictures of Joe Biden actually working in the factory. Unbelievable. See, you can't trust. Oh, shoot. These are real pictures. There's Joe Biden working as hard as he possibly can. Joe Biden is a down-to-earth human being. Joe Biden works in many different aspects of life. There's Joe Biden on the factory trying to figure out this remote AR 3D printed gun. Joe Biden wears flannel when he works at the factory and a blue suit for protection. He's a man's man in his own eyes and in his own mind. Joe Biden gets the work done with his denim shirt on. He looks to the future for something new, but this tiny, tiny factory is running its course. And so is Joe Biden's eyes. Those look cross-eyed. But it doesn't end there with Joe Biden. He leaves us with an important message that we can all get behind. And this message is one of those messages that just completely freeze out of just freeze.
I didn't think it, by the way.
Are you okay? I mean, this is like a 10-second freeze.
Right. I didn't think it was, I've got to go to Ukraine.
I've got to go to Ukraine. That's another clip. Joe Biden, goodbye. I'm going to miss your lies, and I hope you go on to talk shows everywhere on Earth and show your lies to the American public. I hope you're on Stephen Colbert on the next episode immediately after departure.